And welcome to the first weather and climate chat in quite some time. I'll take some blame for some of that because I've been so busy. Monsoon Mike right here, and Dr. Michael Davis, you've been very busy too. How are you, Dr. Davis?
I'm doing pretty good.
Good. Well, we a lot has happened since we last spoke, both in the world of weather and in our, academic and educational worlds as well. So we'll talk about both in this 10 to 15 minute podcast. Let's first start off with the weather. Like I said, you and I have not really talked much since 2-3 weeks. And 2-3 weeks ago, the last time we talked, there was still snow on the ground in some cases from the March snowstorm. That, thankfully, is all but gone. I don't even think we have any remnant piles laying around at the end of driveways anywhere.
I think the couple of days of near record warmth that we had, I think it was like 85
on
Monday. It got up there pretty high, and I know the past couple of days have been in the 80s as well.
And that wasn't even the highest in the state. I saw Philadelphia had a Renegade 87, I believe, one of those really warm days, and I think Reading did an 86. So, definitely some very warm, toasty April weather, but as has been the trend, it seems, for the past, as long as I can remember, past several months, we seem to have these roller coaster swings in temperatures. Going from, 87, which is some, 20, 25 degrees above average, to today, as we're recording this, maybe 5 degrees below average. It's actually a little chilly out there.
You still might get a swing of some cold air every now and then. One of my friends on Facebook just posted a photo of the Forsythia.
Mm-hmm.
And in Ohio, it's pretty much a proverb saying once that plant blooms, you have 3 more snows.
Okay.
So we'll see. I don't know if that proverb is going to hold true this year. I think we're pretty much done with the snow.
We're probably safe, although you can't.
Maybe you snowflake overnight.
You can't rule
perhaps,
out. I remember. Were you in the area in 2008, or was
No, I wasn't.
Okay, 2008. I want to say May 10th, somewhere around there. We had a rogue cold shot, and a little bit of precipitation just happened to time very well overnight one night, and we actually had a little bit of freezing rain, which caused some trouble north of the Lehigh Valley. So it can happen. It's not, we're not saying it is, but it's just be prepared just in case.
Yeah. I don't think we're done with the cold.
Yeah.
Not just quite yet.
Right.
But I think we're done with the snow.
I hope so. And I'm actually, and that's probably a shocking thing for you to hear me say, but I'm at the point now where, okay, it's April. It's time for some nice weather. I'm good with that.
Yeah.
I'm not looking forward to extreme heat, which I'm sure we'll have in some sense soon enough, but whatever. It is what it is.
The 80 degrees in April didn't constitute extreme heat for you?
That was pretty extreme. But I remember, and this has gone way back to some weather history, and I had to look it up to see if it was one of those wives' tales that my family was spreading, or if it actually did happen. And sure enough, it did happen. And in fact, I found some articles where AccuWeather and the National Weather Service had done like a Throwback Thursday thing a couple years ago, going back to Easter 1976. I'm not sure if you ever heard about Easter 1976.
No,
but the reason why it stuck in my mom's head is because she was pregnant with me. I was born in October of 76, and she said she remembered going to church on Easter Sunday, 1976, and almost dying. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? She's like, it was ridiculously hot. And I thought, okay, so it was maybe in the 70s or 80s. No, but I looked it up, and I found articles that all kinds of records were broken Easter 1976. I think Allentown made it to 95 on April 18th, 1976. So. And ironically, I dug further. You know how I like to dig further into weather history. Guess what happened in May? There was a late season snow. So there you have it, folks. You just never know.
In Cleveland, 76 is known for the blizzard.
There you go. Yeah, that was mid-70s were crazy. I mean, you had extreme heat, you had extreme cold, you had snow. I mean, 70s were kind of wild. So. Whatever.
Although 76, I wasn't around.
Yeah, you weren't around yet, and I don't remember it either. I was in my mom's womb, you could say, but she says it was horrible. And, some cars had air conditioning back then, but hers didn't, and, it was pretty bad. So it can happen. All right, so what do we have this week? We have yesterday was gorgeous. Top 10 day of the year, sunshine.
Thank you, high pressure off the mid-Atlantic coast.
You just can't beat yesterday. It was about as perfect as you could get. But today, we're paying back a little bit. Not necessarily a disgustingly dreary day, but more clouds than it was yesterday. What's going on out there?
We have a low-pressure system coming up the Ohio Valley, coming out of the Great Lakes, going to be moving over toward New England. It's going to be bringing us a lot of moisture from the south, so that's where we get these cloud cover from. It's still relatively dry at the surface, so the atmosphere really hasn't moistened up too much. Mm-hmm. There are a few spotty showers out there as we speak, but nothing dramatic.
Now, one thing I've noticed with the weather for tomorrow, I think we have is there a warm front floating around in the area somewhere? Because
we have a weak cold front coming through tonight.
Okay.
That's what could cause us to have a little bit of precipitation, but then the warm front does come through tomorrow.
Okay. And the reason why I asked that is I didn't even really look at the surface map, but I kind of assumed that there was a warm front around because I'm looking at tomorrow's high temperatures, and they're significantly warmer than today. Even
I
though
saw like 74, 75.
Yeah, and when I say significantly, I don't mean it's going to be 87 like it was last week, but
compared to 57 or what now we're at right now.
Weather Service is going with 73 for tomorrow. With mainly, they have it listed as cloudy, but if you read their discussion, they talk about that if we get some sun to sneak out in between the clouds tomorrow, it could be a little warmer.
We do have a little bit of a shortwave coming out of the Great Lakes too, so that's going to maybe enhance some uplift ahead of the warm front.
So yeah, we're not talking about a ton of precipitation. They're saying less than 1/10 of an inch tonight, less than 1/10 of an inch tomorrow, unless there's a renegade thunderstorm. They are forecasting perhaps a thunderstorm, which would give us more than 1/10.
I think that shortwave is going to be the instigator there, where we have air that's rising already. If we can give that little bit of oomph, we might have a little bit of thunder.
Get a thunderstorm, yeah. Thursday night, again, about another 1/10. Friday, again, about another 1/10. So kind of, not a washout by any means, but we're getting nickel and dimed with a little bit of precipitation over the coming days.
That's right.
Yeah. Looks like our first day that we can securely say will stay dry is Saturday. That's looking pretty nice.
We have a weak high pressure. Looks like it's coming out of Canada for Saturday, but then another system comes up, the Ohio River Valley, on Sunday.
Yeah, and I was looking at that system on the GFS model, and actually the Weather Service, reading their discussion, Sunday, at least for now, looks kind of ugly. Rain, 70% chance of rain with a high of only 55 degrees. So April is all over the map, anything from 87 to 55.
But April showers bring Mayflowers.
And Mayflowers bring pilgrims. I'm sure you've heard that very cheesy joke in the past.
Oh, yes.
So there you have it, folks. And what would you say? This is fairly typical April weather that we're seeing this week?
Yeah, the jet stream's still kind of fluctuating wildly from north to south. So we're going to get these shots of cold air followed by warm air and a lot of precipitation, or at least the threat of precipitation. What we're going to see this week, and then maybe an ugly storm potentially over the weekend.
Yeah, I do have to ask you how our water tables are doing. I mean, we had tons of rain in late March, early April, and then we had a rather dry period last week where there really wasn't much at all.
I was just looking at this today.
See?
So
you and I are on the same wavelength, and we didn't even prepare for this before the show, so we're good.
And Allentown right now is about an inch and a half above normal for the spring.
Good. That's pretty good. Okay.
But Reading's about a quarter to half an inch below average.
Interesting. So, okay. Two cities that are only about 40 miles apart. Okay.
So Allentown's been getting more precip than Reading. So the water table's probably going to be a little bit higher there.
And we're kind of smack dab between those two cities, so we're kind of like...
And for the month, we're a little bit below average.
Okay. So you could say that any rain that we do get is beneficial.
Yes.
And will only help us if we get into a long, dry stretch later in the spring or summer. Hopefully.
Which very well could happen, but we'll see.
Okay.
It does look like we might be entering another El Nino
Okay.
this winter, but that's still several months away before it can really be evident. And the signals are kind of mixed right now. It's more of a neutral state currently, but some of the models are suggesting maybe a weak El Nino.
Are you ready to put out any summer temperature forecasts?
No.
Okay. You were quick with that answer. You didn't have to think.
I had a feeling that's where you were going.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I just wanted to throw that out there. If you're already talking winter a little bit, I thought I'd throw in summer, but I'm not really ready to do that either at this point. But based on how we've been the past few summers, I would say leaning toward the warmer side.
Yes, I would say warmer than average.
Yeah. Just based on how we've been the past few
Precip,
summers.
probably about average.
Okay. All right, that's all you're going to get from us now, folks. You're going to have to wait a little longer. All right, so about 10 minutes in, about 5 minutes left. A topic of the week. Between the time that you and I last convened, you had a pretty exciting trip to Boston. Tell us about it.
Yeah, it's the Association of American Geographers, or now it's the American Association of Geographers annual meeting. the AAG. It's a big geography conference, and we took 6 students from Kutztown, one of which used to be here. So technically I had 7.
Okay. All right.
And they all presented at the conference, and they were well received, their research itself. And one of my students, Annalise Gaspich, was in the brief recently
Yep, I saw.
for winning the best undergraduate award at the Polar Geography and Cryosphere Specialty Group poster competition.
Very nice. Congratulations, Annalise. Yep.
And I had several other students present. I had 4 go on Friday and then 2 on Saturday.
Okay.
And they had various topics from changes in atmospheric instability in the mid-Atlantic over the past 10 years to firefly concentrations and how their populations have essentially changed due to changes in springtime precipitation in South Carolina.
Very interesting. So, is this something that you guys are going to regularly do? Go to these sort of events, or was this a one and done sort of thing? Or
They have them once every year.
Okay.
So next spring it'll be in New Orleans.
Okay.
And we're going to go to that one.
Okay,
I'm
good.
hoping to take several more students with
several
me.
more?
And there's also the Regional Geography Conference for Middle States Division of Association of American Geographers. And that is going to be in SUNY Geneseo, so up in New York, because we constitute New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, and just recently we added Puerto Rico to that. Puerto Rico specifically wanted to join our region because of the high Puerto Rican population in New York
Populations
City.
in this area. Okay. Interesting. Very good.
So we very well could have a regional conference in Puerto Rico.
Hey, that would probably be cool.
I think the students would jump on that.
Yeah, definitely. Have you ever been there before?
I have not been to Puerto Rico.
Okay. Well, I had a uncle who was a missionary missionary religious who spent 25 years in Puerto Rico back in the 60s, 70s, and 50s, 60s, and early 70s. And got pretty hot there during the summer. He would tell some stories.
I would imagine it would.
There was no air conditioning really back then. Only the richest people had that, and it was pretty toasty. And he even did like horseback riding around. So he was out in the blazing hot sun during the summer. So
Cool.
Yeah.
And I also went on a field trip, and we were mapping methane leaks across Boston.
Okay.
And that was pretty informative and interesting. We had this tour given by these individuals from Boston University, and they were looking at mapping methane emissions from the aging infrastructure in the ground. They actually knew where you had methane leaks. We drove around this van that was collecting methane readings, and we found that most aging cities like Boston, Philadelphia, New York City are going to have this crumbling, almost poorly maintained network of gas pipes. So you're going to be having leaks, and that amount of methane that's being released is pretty sizable.
Pretty concerning.
And
Yeah.
that's going into the atmosphere, pretty much producing several thousands worth of car emissions.
So I guess
adding
that's
to climate change.
So I was just going to say that kind of all dovetails into our other favorite topic to speak of, climate change in some way or another, correct?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
So
And
we
that's
got,
one of those things you don't even think of. You think of climate change, smoke coming out of smokestacks and stuff. You don't think of methane pipes.
and we found a leak in one of the streets, and it was producing about 50% of the atmosphere around that hole was methane. And when we got around it, you could definitely smell
Wow.
the gas coming from the pipe. And we also looked at the amount of oxygen that was in the air at the time, and evidently there's a bacteria that's in the soil that feeds off of the oxygen, essentially robs the soil of oxygen, so the trees actually get stunted or die off because they don't have the oxygen for their photosynthesis process or their life, essentially. And the trees that were right along the roadways were all chopped down, and they were newly planted trees, but the ones that were further away from the street were the more big elm trees and whatnot that have probably been around since the colonial days because they were far enough away
Right.
to still have an adequate oxygen supply.
Wow. So it sounds like a very educational trip.
It was.
I'm sure you're
I stuffed my brain full of geographic knowledge.
I'm sure you're full for a little while. Always wanting to grow, which is definitely a good thing.
And the students enjoyed Boston as well.
That's all that
We
matters.
got a lot out of it.
Boston's a cool. Was that the first time you were in the city?
That was the first time I was in Boston, yes.
Cool city.
And they were making preparations for the Boston Marathon, which was
Oh, that's right.
just Monday.
That's right. That's right. Cool area to be this time of year. Very good.
Last year it was in San Francisco. That was the first time I was.
That's
out there.
right. That's right. And next year is New Orleans, you said, right?
Yes.
Is that also a first for you, too?
Yep.
Wow, so a lot of firsts thanks to
But
these.
then 2 years from now, it's in Washington D.C. and I've been there.
You've been there many
times.
All right, so that's not new, but it's always new in some way, shape, or form. Well, hey, great. 15 minutes is up. I know you got to get to class soon. Thanks so much, Dr. Davis. Hopefully we'll reconvene sooner rather than later this time.
Yes.
If our schedules jive. Let's aim for Monday, hope for the best, and hopefully by then we'll be done the little dreary weather on Sunday and we can see some improvement. And your students continue to do good with their forecasts as well.
Yes, I've been hearing them.
I just had 2 in last couple of days, so good job to them. All right, we'll talk to you soon, Dr. Davis.
Sounds good.